Part 2 of Building Blocks of Communication will further explore empathetic responding, the key to a helping relationship. Before you even start using your listening and talking skills, one should involve themselves in preparatory empathy. In this situation, you put yourself in the client's shoes and try to view the world through the client's eyes. Imagine the client's presenting issue or situation, his thoughts, feelings about the issue and himself, motivation for seeking help, his culture, stage of life, ethnic background, socioeconomic status, etc. Really imagine yourself in the client's shoes. Empathetic communication is one of the key active listening skills. Remember your definition of empathy. It's the ability to perceive accurately and sensitively the inner feelings of the client and to communicate your understanding of these feelings in a language attuned to the client's experience. The use of empathetic communication on a professional level involves two parts. First, empathetic recognition, and second, demonstrating your understanding through an accurate reflection of your client's feelings. Think about empathy. It really is a skill. It involves going deeper than immediately evident feelings. I find that most people hold their feelings in and aren't that good at expressing them. As a helper, you must identify these underlying emotions and discover the meaning and personal significance of the client's feeling and behavior. You must listen and observe his or her body language. For instance, a client may say something like, "It doesn't really matter." But what you observe in their body language is that they're closed off, or maybe they're tearful. Their body language is not matching their words. You must remain objective, yet demonstrate your understanding, both in your verbal behavior and your nonverbal behavior. One way to convey empathy is through reflection. We'll learn how to reflect the content of what your client is saying, his or her feelings, and the meaning behind his or her words in a number of different ways. A basic way to reflect feelings is through paraphrasing. To paraphrase, you rephrase the meaning of what the client said in your own words. Focus on the cognitive aspects of the client's message, situation, ideas, objects, or persons. For example, let's say your client says, "I don't want to get into a living situation in which I'll not be able to make choices on my own." You might say, "So independence is very important to you." Here, you've just given back to your client what they told you, but in your own words. Even a simple paraphrasing statement can tell your client that you're listening to them and you understand. A second level of active listening involves empathetically responding by using a reciprocal response. Here's a prompt for a reciprocal response. You feel, insert an appropriate feeling word, about, describe the client's situation, because, impact of the situation upon the client or others. Be careful not to just restate the client's message. This is an easy trap to fall into. It's helpful to look at pages 97 through 98 for a list of effective or feeling words. As you begin to use these social work skills, you want to have a wide repertoire of words that helps you to accurately reflect what your client is feeling and experiencing. Empathetic responding sets the stage for deeper exploration of feelings during later phases of the helping process. If you'll refer to your textbook, pages 101 to 104, you'll see that there are different levels of empathetic responding. As BSW students, you should be able to demonstrate a level 3. This includes verbal and nonverbal responses that convey understanding and are essentially interchangeable with the client's obvious expressions, accurately reflecting factual aspects of the client's message and surface feelings. An example of a level 3 empathetic response would be, the client says, "I can't talk to my father without feeling scared and crying. I'd like to be able to express myself and to disagree with him, but I just can't." As a social worker, you'd say, "It sounds as though you must feel panicky when you try to talk to your father. I gather you're discouraged because you'd like to feel comfortable with your dad and able to talk openly with him without falling apart. Do you think y'all can do that?" I know you can. It takes practice. One thing you can practice is a variety of leads to your empathetic response. Leads could be something like, "You appear to be feeling," or "Listening to you, it seems as if," "Let me see if I'm with you." "What I think I'm hearing is," "I wonder if." These all lead you into that empathetic response prompt. See page 107 in your textbook for a whole list of empathetic responses. I would usually find maybe 5 that I like and alternate in using them. You want to be sure to respond to the broad range of emotions and feelings your client is experiencing. For example, an anxious client may be feeling frightened, intimidated, desperate, frantic, paralyzed, shaky, awkward, uneasy, worried, or tense. Don't worry, if you reflect a client's feelings and you're not on point, you'll usually be able to see that you've made a mistake, either in their body language or they might just tell you, "No, that's not right." Don't worry, it takes practice and being open to your client. You do want to avoid some obstacles. Watch the client's nonverbal behavior for signs of disengagement. Clients' nonverbal actions may let you know what is happening in the helping session. For instance, if your clients start looking down or looking out the window, they're starting to disengage. Empathetic responding helps to diffuse the anger of involuntary clients. We'll learn more techniques for working with involuntary clients later on. You must show a genuine effort to understand the client's experience. That's usually successful in dissolving some anger or diffusing anger. Another thing you can do is use your teaching role to help clients learn how to respond empathetically. Modeling empathetic responses can help clients in improving their own communication with persons in their lives. I find that many clients have relationship problems. You can teach clients the paradigm for empathetic responding. You feel blank about blank because of blank. A number of additional active listening skills include what we call use of an encourager, Remember that your goal is to help your client feel comfortable and trusting of you and willing to open up and share their problems. Use of an encourager involves using a single word or short phrase that encourages continued communication. I see. Tell me more. Or even just shaking your head. Clarification is another skill. You would ask a question to deepen your understanding, to clarify what they're saying. I'm not sure what you mean. The social worker should always provide structure and direction to the session, and clarification often helps to guide that process. You may say something like, I'd like to interrupt to check whether I'm understanding what you mean. This can often help keep the client on track. Some final active listening skills for this Part 2 lecture include summarization, which is pulling together the content and effective components of several messages. After your client has given you a detailed description or a number of different situations, you might summarize by describing them briefly or pulling them together. You'll also like to use summarization at the end of an interview to help gather all the thoughts and ideas you've discussed. A final skill is exploring the client's silence. I know many of us don't feel that comfortable during periods of silence, but you can really use it in the therapeutic process. You may let the client have their silence for a moment and then reflect on it. For example, this seems difficult for you to talk about. Is it too painful to discuss? This gives your client the option to talk about something that they normally would not have brought up. This concludes our brief lecture on active listening until Part 3. Stay tuned.